Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. We are excited to have you guys alongside with us. We are doing a Friday episode of the show. We obviously could not do Wednesday because I was doing a family dinner. And then I was also going to the Nuggets game. Was it yesterday? So going to be a lot of fun talking about that, the Denver Nuggets as of late, if you will. So we're going to spend some time talking about the Denver Nuggets. And of course, there's playoff weekend in terms of the championship weekend. So we're going to be spending probably a good deal about, on that probably, about who's going to be going to the Super Bowl. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to take a dabble on some of those coaching news that has, certainly been circulating. My guess is we might be talking about two teams in particular, about how, they were, rather linked, if you will, and that would be the Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we're going to talk about all of that. And probably get to all of your guys' comments in the chat, and obviously, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button over there on the MHRT Network page. Our goal, at least what I've been pushing, is that we can be able to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. We are doing super chats now. So if you guys feel compelled to give a certain amount on a comment, please feel free to do so. It is going to be a lot of fun here tonight. And so again, please chime in the comments as we are talking through, and we'll see. We'll get your guys' comments on the stream. Brandon, how are you doing, man?
How's it going? TGIF, we're here. We're at Friday. We are at the conference championship weekend, and go Bills. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say about that. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Let me go. I got to go purchase a cheaply constructed plastic table.
Yeah. You're going to jump through? You're going to be one of those people who jumps through the table?
I think I have to have someone throw me through it. I don't know. I'm not actually an official member of Bills Mafia. If someone can DM me on Twitter and give me the lowdown on like how that works, can I just jump into it, or like what happens here?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be talking all about that Buffalo Bills game, because I'm pretty darn certain that unless you're a Chiefs fan, basically everybody who is not a Chiefs fan will be rooting for the Buffalo Bills. One of the greatest, like I said, we'll be diving a lot into the the game, but I thought that one of the best like reels memes that I've ever seen lately was the Avengers meme. Like, and I'm sure you've seen it, Brandon, but it's like it's the end game scene where Cap is like beaten, if you will, after he lifted the hammer, and then it's the on your left with Sam, and then just everybody just starts coming out, and then he says the Avengers assemble. And basically the meme goes is like everybody's a Buffalo Bills fan, and then they show Thanos as Patrick Mahomes or the Chiefs or whatever, and then yeah.
I have not seen that. I mean, obviously I've seen that meme's been around for like years at this point. I have seen the meme, but I've not seen that exact one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are all Bills fans. Like at some point, does it not get tiring to see the same team over and over and over again? Like they're not even.
I mean, we felt it with the
Patriots.
Like, we felt it with the Patriots years too. It's just like, yeah. What's funny is you would think that we would be like tone deaf to it in a sense, like that we would be adjusted to it, knowing the fact that that in the sense that we're just adjusted to it, and it's easy to adjust to something like this. But also we're human, right? And it's one of the ones where it's just like the true fandom really sets in. And And it's just one where it's like, I don't know. It's just, you would think that we would just be well adjusted to the fact that it is what it is, right? But
I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But obviously, you got Josh Allen that is wanting to finally get past this mountain. And I'm excited to see what happens. Like, I think it's going to be an intriguing game. We'll just say that much. So yeah, go Bills. That's how I'm feeling. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird to think the Broncos season is over. I don't know if it's just not hit me yet or what, but it just doesn't feel like the off season. Obviously there's still football going on, but Big Mike, welcome. You're late. You had one job. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's officially the off season yet. And it's probably, again, just because there's still like actual football being played, but it just hasn't sunk in yet that we're not going to be seeing the Broncos for like 8 months. So bring on the conference championships and the Super Bowl, and just please be anyone other than the Chiefs so I can feel like I enjoy it before football is gone for the rest of the year.
By the way,
obviously until September.
By the way, some Broncos news and notes that we'll talk about. The AP, in essence, the NFL Honors, announced their finalists for the awards, right? And it should not really come as a surprise, right? In terms of who they announced the finalist of, in terms of Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. I will say, given what we have known in the past, Brandon, I thought it was slightly surprising to. I mean, he still should have been up there, right? He's excuse me. He still should have been up for Coach of the Year as a finalist, but it was somewhat surprising to see Sean Payton's name up there as a Coach of the Year finalist. Knowing about how the league is kind of. And has kind of hated him a little bit in the past. So it's nice to see that recognition. We all know that he's not going to win. It seems like it's going to be trending in the way of Kevin O'Connell, but that was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give it to Sean Payton, like not give him the reward, but you have to give him the recognition. He's not the most popular head coach, but like, who cares? It doesn't matter. He's like well respected in NFL circles, and really the only people we've seen not like him have really been fans and media, and that really doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, he brought the Broncos back to the postseason for the first time in almost a decade. Like, obviously he needs to be on that list. Kevin O'Connell just had an absolutely special season, so he's clearly going to be the Coach of the Year. But yeah, it's just
who's your comeback player of the year?
It's fun to see. Well, real quick, I will say, obviously Kevin O'Connell's probably going to win it, but I do think Dan Quinn is kind of a dark horse here. I don't think he's going to get it, but just what he's also done with the rookie quarterback and Jaden Daniels, and obviously a lot of this also has to do with Jaden being arguably the best rookie quarterback ever. I mean, statistically, but not necessarily, but that doesn't really matter. I think this is arguably a more impressive season than what we saw, from Justin Herbert and from Dak as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Quinn is I'm not surprised Dan Quinn's on there, and he is kind of a dark horse, but yeah, it's probably going to be.
By the way, and this is kind of a subtlety, I feel like this is also a thank you to about how good our ownership has been, because the ownership, right, interviewed Dan Quinn, Kevin O'Connell, and then of course they interviewed Sean Payton, of course. So all three of these Coach of the Year candidates have ties to the Denver Broncos as possibly being a finalist or close to being a finalist for the coaching job in Denver. So I think that's actually kind of a nice little tie-in of it all. Did you see Diane Dawkins come out and
Deion Dawkins said the Protector of the Year? the offensive lineman award. I love it. Honestly, they should make that a thing because I feel like offensive linemen in general are just like the unsung heroes of NFL football. I mean, the trenches in general kind of also fill that role, but I do think like you will never see, I'm sorry, but you just will never see any offensive lineman in the running for like offensive player of the year. Probably not going to be in the running for comeback player of the year. Like you're just not going to see them in any of these awards. Which is stupid, but it just is. It is what it is, and like, unfortunately, it's also one of those positions that like it's just not flashy and it's not easily chartable. I guess I would say it's not statistically relevant. It's not like, oh well, this guy. I don't even know. Like, how would you even quantify that? Like, I think that's what kind of goes into it. Is just the nuance of the position in general. But like, I definitely agree that I think there's probably been some offensive linemen over the years that have probably deserved to win offensive player of the year. Big Mike, that's a great idea as well. There definitely needs to be something on the trenches side. I loved Deion Dawkins, like protector of the year. I think that's what it was called. Is that what he called it? Protector of the year.
I think that's
yeah, I love that. That would be so cool.
Well, because like again, like it gives a lot of credence to the idea of like the trenches and everything, and it does give a lot of respect to the players that really don't get the respect that they probably deserve. Which I think that is specifically with offensive lineman of the year, it would be something that's it's not just a offensive tackle, right? That would be up for offensive lineman of the year. It would be, center, guard, of course, tackle. Of course, with Big Mike in the chat, we all know who he would be voting for. And that would be Garrett Bowles, of course. I'm kidding. Even though Garrett Bowles had a great year, we know Big Mike would be all about Quinn Miners. He would probably spam like all the votes if he was a fan vote. But anyway, I still think it's a great idea. It'd be a phenomenal idea.
Honestly, I mean, you could even do something like that with like rookie offensive lineman, like rookie trench player of the year, something like that. Just basically, even though he's a rival, I would say find some way to give it to Joe Alt because he's been killing it. Like I can't even lie. But I do think it could have been maybe like Penei Sewell could have absolutely been in that conversation. This last year,
Quentin Nelson a couple of years
Quentin
ago.
Nelson, yep. Yeah. Trent Williams, probably one of those perennial dudes. It's going to be available for that, or like a runner for that in the running for that award. Can't think of the words to speak with right now for some reason. Friday's drained the the emotional energy out of me, but I love the idea. Do I think it's going to actually happen? I don't know about that. Was Creed Humphrey
I think he was
rookie of the year.
He was talked about. I thought for a little bit. Obviously, he didn't end up
actually
winning it, but I thought that
he won the Senior Bowl rookie of the year.
But that
no tight end or offensive lineman has ever won rookie of the year.
Yeah, I think nonetheless, though, that would be super fantastic.
But I think that would be super cool. Yeah.
Obviously, the other awards that were discussed was, obviously offensive rookie of the year. I think a lot of us, even Bronco fans, as much as we love Bo Nix and as much as we have appreciated the season that he has had, we are full on expecting, that Bo Nix to be, that Jaden Daniels would be the one that's going to be taking the award. Despite probably statistically, it's actually a lot closer than people think or want to even give credit for.
I do think, okay, fully biased.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it's Jaden Daniels. Like, I'm sorry, Jaden Daniels just had
he should win
the best rookie quarterback season ever, in my opinion. I do think it's him. I think Bo had a great rookie year. I think almost in any other year, he probably would have been your offensive rookie of the year, but you have rookie season like that from Jaden Daniels, who is potentially about to play in a Super Bowl if he pulls it out against the Eagles, which we'll talk about. And he played well. He played well against them before. But I do think just you have to give it to him. Although I do think it's funny because obviously this was discussed with absolutely zero context at the time. But I remember a lot of the time right after the draft, there were people that were kind of all over, oh, it's going to be Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. Yep. He's so talented. He's so good. The Bears finally have their guy. The Bears are, a force in the NFL with Caleb. And
which, by the way,
Caleb's not even remotely in the discussion. I'm sorry.
Like statistically,
he wasn't awful, but he also wasn't good.
Like statistically, even just the touchdowns and interceptions, it wasn't, bad by any means, but it also wasn't great. And, kudos, to FanDuel and all these, X Twitter accounts, by the way, that have been posting, who had the listing of the top 10 rookie seasons, and they decide to, put what is it?
Was it Mac Jones?
They listed a bunch of candidates, but FanDuel,
I don't remember.
Or not candidates, but they listed a bunch of players that had top 10 rookie seasons. But FanDuel specifically listed like the top 10, and they put Caleb Williams in there. And it's like, dude,
they did put Caleb Williams. Yeah,
it's like, dude, what are we doing here? Like,
I feel like that was kind of just.
Let's talk about bait right there. Like,
I think that was name recognition.
Yeah,
more than anything. I do agree.
Yeah,
it probably should be Bowers.
But I think
100% I agree with that. I just don't think it will be because it's going to go to a quarterback. And I'm going to say that it's going to be, again, Jaden Daniels. But Brock Bowers should be the offensive rookie of the year because he's just been
I do
outstanding. But it's insane. Go ahead.
But I do think, though, from if you look collectively at the offensive rookie of the year, in my estimation, it actually should be a lot closer than people, are probably going to give it credit for, in the sense of all the votes a fair amount of the votes to Jaden, and then, some to Bowers and some to Bo. It should be relatively close for all three of them. Bowers, obviously, statistically, had the greatest tight end season we may ever see. And Sam Laporta was right up there. Right. And Sam Laporta.
Sam Laporta set the record for most, I believe, touchdowns by a rookie tight end in NFL history last year.
Yeah.
And then Brock Bowers broke it.
So, he breaks a long-standing record that was, done by Mike Ditka. Right. He was just breaking and shattering records, left and right. And we saw the same thing with Bo. We don't need to rehash all those records and everything that happened with Bo Nix. So it's just I feel like it should be closer, than, certainly what the voters will do. But I think if you are probably using the smart head of who you think is going to end up winning, it's going to end up being Jaden Daniels, right? We should all smartly realize that. As far as though the Broncos possibly taking in some hardware, Brandon, it seems like it might be trending in the direction for the Denver Broncos to be having their first defensive player of the year for the first time since Randy Gradishar, a member of the Orange Crush defense, and that being Pat Surtain. And obviously, why do I say that? Because the Football Writers of America
recently inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Randy Gradishar.
Yes.
Have to just say that.
The Pro Football Writers of America tabbed Surtain as the defensive player there. And why do I say that? It's because the writers are more often than not the voters for defensive player of the year. So
it's absolutely significant. I don't even know who are the other people. I think TJ Watt is on there again, which, to be honest, is just kind of funny because I don't think TJ Watt has been nearly as good this year as he was even in prior years comparatively to himself. Which
I don't even think.
He's been. No, Benito isn't. How crazy would it be though to have like two different defensive players from the same team in the running for that? I don't think that's actually ever happened. I don't think they can allow that to happen, to be honest. Like, not that it's rigged. I just think that they would try to find someone else. Let me actually see. I don't even know. The only people I know that are on it is Surtain and
it's Zach Bond,
TJ Watt. Oh, Garrett, Zach Bond. That's right.
Trey Hendrickson.
Trey Hendrickson. Yeah.
Surtain and TJ Watt. Which, by the way, if you're actually going to be using a little bit of an argument for the players that probably are maybe deserving, and I mean, we're going to be biased. We feel like, Surtain, is going to end up being a defensive player of the year. But dude, Zach Bond, you want to talk about a year. I mean, obviously he's in a contract year. So if you're talking about a possible free agent that the Broncos cough should target now, in this offseason, Bond would be one of them. But Bond is one player in particular that is not getting enough praise, I feel like, specifically within like the names that are on this list of Hendrickson, Watt, Garrett, and PS2. He's like being swept under the rug. He's had a phenomenal year with the Eagles.
Yeah, Zach Bond has been just an absolute force for them. It's weird. It's kind of similar to what we talked about with like offensive linemen not getting the recognition that they deserve. But Zach Bond being like, I don't know if you could officially call him an inside linebacker, but like the linebacker position doesn't really get
Luke Kuechly
as much as like really. I know like they can be considered depending on like the terminology that you use, edge players, yes, linebackers specifically that kind of do more in coverage and more kind of in the middle of the field, not as much. Luke Kuechly, I think, was literally the last one to get any kind of recognition, and like to be fair, like he is one of the greatest of all time. Like it's warranted, but yeah, Zach Bond is having a ridiculous year. And if we could get him in free agency, I would 100% stand up for that. I cannot imagine that they let him get away, but
no, yeah, it's definitely one where it's going to be a little bit hard to see him walk away from.
He only signed a 1 year, like talk about a prove it contract. Zach Bond proved it. He signed a 1 year deal with them.
Like the ultimate prove it deal of
that might have been the best like value to production contract of the entire year.
And obviously the recruiting pitch
by the Eagles.
The recruiting pitch that the Broncos would have, by the way, aside from the fact of, Vance Joseph coaching a lot of versatile players in that linebacker room, is, well, you have Jim Leonard back there. And Leonard is from Wisconsin ties. Bond, of course, is from Wisconsin. So there is certainly that. So I don't want to rule anything out, but I would absolutely be, through the roof if Bond was a Denver Bronco.
Zach Bond, also former Saint as well, who technically did play for Sean Payton for like 2 years, 1 year maybe.
Now moving forward, do you want to touch on the coaching stuff first, or do you want to touch on the championship games first?
Well, real quick, let's wrap up the rest of these awards too, because I am curious to hear your thoughts and then the chat's thoughts on comeback player of the year. I think this is one of the most interesting awards in general, just because how do you want to say, criteria for like what constitutes this award is very vague. Like it just doesn't. Let me ask you. It doesn't exist.
It's an unfortunate question to ask, because every single player that is listed is deserving of the award, but like, who do you feel is the most deserving?
Sam Darnold.
Because where it gets interesting for me is, isn't Burrow up for? Yeah,
he is, but like, it's just not the same to me.
But my question for Darnold is, what is he coming back from?
Well, okay, so that's why I wanted to talk about like this award and how it was it's not clear what exactly comeback means. Like Joe Burrow, yes, he came back from that injury the previous year, but like that's where it's kind of crazy. It's like, yeah, he came back from an injury, but so do a ton of players all the time. And Joe Burrow's an elite quarterback. Like he's not.
It's also the season that he had. Like he
did have an incredible season as well. But like again, it's Joe Burrow. Like that's just the kind of season that he has. And I get it.
Yeah,
I understand where that's coming from. But this is just where I'm like, what is the criteria for this award? I'm not saying Joe Burrow doesn't deserve to be on here, but like Damar Hamlin, amazing story, incredible story. Is he still coming back from that horrific scene that we saw on the field? Could be, yeah. But again, it's just like, what is the comeback? What is the comeback from? J.K. Dobbins had like that massive injury as well. Like most of these guys on here, injury. Sam Darnold, though, come back from, honestly, I'm just going to be honest, it's a comeback from the Jets. The comeback from the Jets organization is what Sam Darnold is on this list for. And like, I think he should probably win it for that. Like the comeback career of the year. Just completely Geno Smith, his career. And Geno Smith, who won comeback player of the year, by the way. But Sam Darnold is doing kind of the similar thing.
But here's the thing. If you're going to, so I'm not trying to disparage Sam Darnold like at all from this, right? Me personally, I think it's Joe Burrow. For the record, I think Joe Burrow wins this. But I think that if you're going to be labeling something like Sam Darnold, who I feel like is deserving to at least be shown on this list, I think in order for him to win this, and by everything that we were talking about there like a couple minutes ago there, Brandon, I feel like for him to be a comeback player, he's going to end up having to have 2 or 3 years of very, very good play. That's what I'm talking about. So it's just like for him to be coming from the Jets and play the way that he did, with Kevin O'Connell as his coach and the way that he performed and getting the Vikings to, 15 wins, right? I mean, like, or 14 wins, was it? But like to getting them to where they were is unbelievably impressive, and it cannot be ignored. The problem is it was one season, and that's why I talk about
but it is comeback player of this year.
I know, but it's just like it's one like in just the circumstances of coming back from the Jets, which is in essence what this would be. I feel like, just too often sometimes we've seen players have this one-hit wonder season and then they they're back down to earth a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay. I said the comeback from the Jets.
You're not wrong, though.
Jokingly. But in all honesty, I think it's more he came back from the bench because everyone was like, Sam Darnold is not going to be a starting quarterback in this league. Sam Darnold is not good. Sam Darnold was a bust. Sam Darnold was still seeing ghosts, like that joke, that meme will never die, apparently. But he just goes around, turns around and does like borderline the impossible with the Vikings this year and goes and wins 14 games, and just has an absolute 360 or 180 turnaround. He didn't pull a 360. He'd be going back the way he came. 180 degree turnaround, and just like is now going from a guy who just like is kind of a journeyman around the league. He's not really going to get many opportunities. Maybe get just be relegated to be like a backup somewhere, or just clear a clipboard. Who knows? Not saying that that's like bad by any means, but it just turned it around to like, yeah, this guy is going to now have a market. He's going to probably be paid like a starter. Someone's going to go out there and get him and try to see if this is for real. And like, he's always been talented. He was talented enough to be a top draft pick in the NFL. Oh, yeah. And he obviously went to the Jets and went to a completely horrible situation. And it's very hard for a lot of rookie quarterbacks to succeed in an environment like that. And I just think like he's coming back from the bench. And yeah, people have had incredible seasons before. Look at Case Keenum on the Vikings. I don't know why it's just always the Vikings for some reason, but yeah, is this sustained? Who knows? No idea. I have no idea if this is going to be sustainable, but like there's no way for me to know. It's a comeback player of the year this year. We're only going to know this year. That's what the criteria is based on.
I know, but like
fizzle out, sure. But
it's one where
can't go on that. I don't know.
It's just one where say he wins, but his career starts coming back down again. Fans are just going to be coming out and basically saying this guy really won the
Yeah, but
no, I
mean that's going to happen in any situation.
So as far as just to do real quick, as far as some of the other rewards, the defensive rookie of the year is you have two Philadelphia Eagles. You have Cooper DeJean. That would be that's my Jackie number 2. And then you have Braden Fisk and Jared Verse both up. So you have 2 teams and 2 players from each team. And then you have Chop Robinson, who had a pretty solid year, and Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, of course, for the Eagles. You gotta give it to Jared Verse here.
You have to give it to Jared Verse. Real quick, one sec. I do want to just talk about this thing Big Mike said. Yes, technically they did make a ruling that starting this year, it has to be come back from injury. But if they actually enforced that, there's no way he'd be a finalist, right? Anyway, I just think that that's funny that they definitely like tried to make that a thing and it just didn't really stick. Anyway, 100% couldn't agree more. It has to go to Jared Verse. Jared Verse just has been ridiculous. And like he's so good, he overshadowed how good Braden Fisk has been as well for the Rams, who's also on this list.
Great player. You and I loved Braden.
We love Braden Fisk. We wanted him. Yeah. I wanted Jared Verse as well, but I'm happy with Bo Nix. Anyway, it's kind of crazy that you talk about 2 teams finding such impactful players at the same position 2 different times as rookies this last year. You have the Rams doing that with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, and you also have the Eagles rookie cornerback duo of Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who are, I think, also both up for. One of them is up for Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, but they're just like incredible corners that are also both rookies. Like, damn, that's kind of crazy.
Which, by the way, remember when there was a bit of some talk about how weak the cornerback class was in 2024?
Mm-hmm.
How about now? And I granted they're with one team, but it's just like and how much crap, at least at the time, the Eagles were getting for taking why are you taking 2 corners, or at least lending it to the idea, well, Cooper DeJean can be able to play safety, right? And not saying he couldn't, like Riley Moss, but it's just like the fact that you have cornerback 1 and cornerback 2. Like it gives you possibly the idea that had Riley Moss been healthy as well and finished the entire season, what could have been on that one? What could have been on that one? You would have had Riley Moss and Cooper DeJean up there, for defensive rookie of the year. So man, that would have been something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Other ones, of course, the obvious. We touched on Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and MVP of the and MVP. I do think it's a bit interesting. I don't know if this is like lending to the idea that Josh Allen will win, but he's not up for Offensive Player of the Year. You have Barkley, Burrow, and Chase, Henry, and Lamar for Player of the Year, and MVP. You have Allen, Barkley, Burrow, Goff, and Jackson. So you actually have Goff, who's not up for Offensive Player of the Year, and Allen, who's also not up for Player of the Year, but both are up for MVP.
I don't know. That's just kind of weird.
Me personally, I
kind of get it.
I would want Saquon to win personally. If
I do think, I do think it's strange, like you talked about, where you have players that are up for MVP that are not up for Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know. Like it I'm not even going to try to dissect that
whether
one, but
they win or not,
it's just kind of weird. But I do think, see, this is where it's weird because I want Saquon to win, but I could see Lamar Jackson being both the Offensive Player of the Year and the MVP because he was that good this year.
And what it might end up being is Saquon's the Offensive Player of the Year, and then they give it to Allen or something.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Lamar Jackson's going to be the MVP. I think Josh Allen had one of the greatest career years you can see from a quarterback
I think
with his skill set, and I still think Lamar Jackson killed it somehow even more. I could 100% see it being Allen as well. Like, I'm not even saying this is who I'm picking. I just think it will probably be Lamar. But I mean, I also would 100% not be surprised at all if it's Josh Allen. Anyway, Offensive Player of the Year, I just think it would be not out of the question to see Lamar win both. But I do think if I had to guess and who I want to get it, I want it to be Saquon. Bad year to be Derrick Henry, where you have an absolutely just record-setting almost running back season, and you're doing it in the same year that Saquon Barkley is a force of nature. I mean, yeah, Saquon could end up with 3,000 yards. That's 100% accurate. Like, I do think Saquon had the better year between the two of them. I just think Derrick Henry being 30, I think, and having this year as a running back in that offense is absolutely insane. And he had a killer year, and Saquon was still somehow so much better. Like, this was a special year from Saquon. Like, I don't think you're going to see a running back have a year like this again anytime soon.
It actually,
and I could be wrong, but I would want it to be Saquon. That's who, if I had a vote, that's who I'd vote for.
I'm with you 100%. And I think it also goes to show you, though, like, how impressive this season was all across the board, because you have Joe Burrow in any other year, whether he made the playoffs or not, in any other year, he probably would be winning MVP. And they've done that before.
I agree with that.
Where, Peyton Manning was,
they didn't win enough.
They didn't win enough, or whatever, but like, he was still the MVP, right? That was they didn't call him the regular season MVP for nothing, and getting the monkey off of his back, and winning Super Bowls and that sort of thing. So he would be winning an MVP in a normal year. You would have Saquon Barkley probably in a normal year be winning MVP. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, that's where it gets a bit interesting, because they might be the two top getters, if you will, for MVP. And it would be, and I think that where it's actually helped matters is the fact that Patrick Mahomes has had such a down year, that he's not even on there. And Jared Goff, for as much as he, had the playoff disaster, it's important to note that the votes that get cast is for the regular season, right? And Jamar Chase, of course, yes.
Theoretically.
And Jamar Chase, of course, getting the Triple Crown, right? So, I mean, like, it was just a crazy year all across the board. I think also for me, and this is just a more continuing the point of Saquon winning, I would love one full year of football, college football and pro football, where you have a non-quarterback win. So you have Travis Hunter winning the Heisman, and then you have Saquon, winning the MVP, or, Jamar Chase, right, winning the MVP. How phenomenal would that be? Like, it truly, like, in 1 year of football, you have non-quarterbacks winning the Primo Award, for their particular sport. So I just think that would be great, and it would be so great for the sport. Do you have? I saw this, by the way. I saw this, by the way, in terms of like for coach of the year. There also is assistant of the year. And I know that there were some people in Broncos country, Broncos Twitter, that were mentioning, well, why isn't Vance Joseph up for assistant coach of the year?
I get it. I honestly, I don't think the defense was consistently elite enough for him to be on that list. And you can absolutely say that injury played a major part in that, and specifically losing Riley Moss. But like, you have the game that we had against the Browns. I just think that like the defense made an absolutely massive step forward compared to what we were last year. But I just don't think enough happened to put Vance on that list, just to be perfectly honest.
I think that, and specifically when we hit the stretch of games where they were darn near dead last statistically, in defense. I think the fact that there was that small stretch of games as the season was winding down and the votes had not been cast yet, didn't necessarily give him, like the unfortunate bump to probably be up for assistant coach of the year. If it was continuing and they were still losing those games, but they were tight defensive battles all the way through, then he still might have been up for, assistant coach of the year at that point. Anything else that you wanted to touch on there with the awards?
Just one thing. I do personally think I would give it to, in terms of assistant, Aaron Glenn. Just what he did with current now Jets head coach Aaron Glenn. Primarily just because what he was able to continuously do with that defense in Detroit, having lost basically every single starter to injury and still fielding a very competent team out there and a great defense, is just like, I don't even know like what to say. That's just an absolutely phenomenal job by Aaron Glenn. Like, kudos to him.
And also, it sounds like the Jets are close to prying away a Broncos executive, Darren Moogie, I believe it is. They are going to be taking him and making him GM under Aaron Glenn. Which, by the way, if that does in fact happen, which I expect it to happen based on everything that's in the word of social media and everybody that's been reporting it, I expect it to happen. Me personally, I would expect Cody Rager to be taking a promotion and taking Moogie's place, and being that assistant general manager. And I think it goes to show you, though, like how the forward thinking had been with the front office, in the simple fact that you have, just the player, or just when you think of like the way that they constructed it with David Shaw, Rager, some of these other guys, like there was already some forward thinking in place that if, Darren moved on, there was be a guy that would just, basically fall right into place. And then at that point you have, Peyton and Rager almost working hand in hand, and everybody's loved Rager. You talk to every single Saints media member, player, they rave about Cody, like from top to bottom. So I even think Peyton I think he called him like one of his key front office people in terms of scouting too. So you factor in a little bit more of a role for him in scouting with Peyton. Yeah, I will definitely take that.
Yeah, Darren Moogie, obviously we don't know for sure. It's not been actually confirmed that he has been hired as the Jets GM, although it's probably likely just based on what we've seen. I believe has been the longest tenured person in the organization in a front office role. So that'll be tough to lose. But good for him if he gets the Jets job. He's been grinding for the past 10 years. Dude came on as an scouting intern in 2012, and just continued to move up the ranks every single year. Survived multiple GMs. Dude started when John Elway was still the general manager here, and just continue to prove that he belongs to be here. George Paton comes in, sees what he has in Darren immediately. He's like, I don't want to lose this guy. Yeah. Gives him a promotion. After the first year, gives him another promotion to assistant general manager, and just continuously wants to keep him around if at all possible. So good for the Jets, and that would suck for us to lose him.
And by the way, there's some silly stuff going around, which has been a troll. Broncos will not be getting 2 third-round picks for Darren Moogie. By the way,
there's no context with this.
Yeah, so pretty silliness that you're seeing around there. He's not going to be getting. Had Vance Joseph taken a job, then you certainly would be talking about 2 third-round picks. All right, moving forward, let's since actually we're talking about the coaching and a lot of that moving around, let's touch briefly on some of the head coaching cycles right now in the NFL. Dallas and New Orleans are the only ones remaining right now. Dallas and New Orleans is the only one remaining. However, it seems like
you just know that Dallas is gonna
be hiring Brian Schottenheimer.
Brian Schottenheimer, or that definitely has been the.
It seems trending that way.
By far the biggest name that's been connected to them.
Big Mike says Dallas is done.
Is it done?
Yeah.
Saints of Aaron Kafka. I just was going to say, I think like the Cowboys are going to do the most Cowboys move you could possibly imagine.
How down bad are those Cowboys?
I'm surprised that Kellen Moore was not the name. I'm just going to be honest, just with what you've seen that connection be like in the past and the success that he's had. But it's going to be fascinating to see. I do think between of all of the hires that have happened so far, it's hard to, you don't want to get into like a mindset of like, oh, well, whoever gets hired last is clearly the worst. Like all of the good head coaching candidates have been picked over. The Jags very luckily got away with not being in that situation because Liam Cohen decided to just like screw over the Buccaneers basically. But
that whole situation, we'll briefly talk about that.
As much as it's funny to think about that, and like Dallas seeming to be kind of in permanent ineptitude in terms of like the decisions that front office, and by that front office I mean entirely Jerry Jones, continues to make. I don't know what's going to happen there with Schottenheimer. The Saints, I don't know what's going to happen with Kafka, if that is who they go with. He's in absolute cap hell currently, but it just kind of seems like those are the most underwhelming hires of the cycle. But you can't really, again, you can't get into the like, well, there was no talent left available. Right. Dan Quinn was the last head coach hired this when the Commanders hired him, so it's not really a matter of the last hires being the worst, but I just don't think, I think those two are by far the least impressive. Coming around to more recent events with Pete Carroll landing in the AFC West in Las Vegas. Wow. That was, I know he was like kind of the biggest name going there, but, and I think Tom Brady had a big role in this hire.
Did they hate each other? Did they not hate each other?
I don't know, but I do think that's just absolutely fascinating. You saw the Raiders have to somehow find a way to keep up with
the division
that now has Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and now like two also national championship winning coaches. Raiders set back 10 years. Yeah. I don't know how this is going to work. We'll get to it, but then you have Harbaugh and Carroll are the two that I was talking about that have won also national championships. I did see that, Big Mike. The biggest thing I'm saying there is like, the reason I'm saying he screwed them over, I'm not saying he lied about that. Like, I'm not even saying anything about the call situation. Like, I don't want to get into that. I know nothing about his family situation and if his, his children being sick, like, prayers up for him. What I meant there was like he clearly had pulled himself out of the running for that job, told the Buccaneers he was staying, and was like ready to sign that deal. Then finally Shad Khan decides like, or realizes what everyone else knows and is like, oh, well, no one wants to come to this job with our current general manager in place. They fire him, and suddenly Liam's like, oh, now that's appealing to me. But I didn't mean anything about the them not being able to contact Cohen, like nothing to do with his family situation. I just think that he kind of pulled the rug out from him a little bit in terms of how he went about that situation, but I don't think he did anything maliciously in terms of like not wanting to get in touch with him.
I just think that, you know, you never know what someone's intentions are, you know, and, you know, we're not in the shoes of Liam Cohen, and we're not in the shoes of, you know, Shad Khan, the Jaguars. All that said, the optics, just from outside looking in, and Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars and Shad Khan and Buccaneers, it looks terrible. Like, it just looks so terrible, because it's like you have on one hand, even from the beginning, right? Even from the beginning, I don't know if people even realize this, but like in the beginning when Shad Khan had his end of the year press conference, it was a Zoom call. It was a Zoom call, and you had Trent Baalke on with him in this Zoom call, and Khan was answering questions about the general manager position and saying, well, if it ends up being where we need to move on, we'll look into that, certainly, with Trent Baalke on the call, you know? And so like, from the very from the very beginning, it started to seem like things were on thin ice. Well, so now you start to do these interviews, and then you get to the Liam Cohen situation where Baalke's finally let go. And then Cohen is then interested in that job. Well, like 24, 48 hours after signing a contract extension with the Bucs, for him being an offensive coordinator there. You know, so the optics just look really bad. And then also you have to feel for Baker Mayfield. Like, this is one more offensive coordinator switch for him, you know, in Tampa. So it's just like the guy just cannot have stability to save his life, you know, as an offensive coordinator, or for an offensive coordinator. So it's just like the whole thing is just like,
I don't think that will affect him, just because he's proven in the past that he can kind of play.
It's just wild,
independent of his offensive coordinator. But I do feel for him, because he had by far a career year. But I mean, that's kind of what happens. You can't really have a year like you did with that offense in Tampa and not expect your guy to get poached.
No, I get it. It's just,
but like, I does suck. Like, I love Baker Mayfield. I wanted the Broncos to draft him ever since he was coming out of Oklahoma. I thought we were going to draft him because we requested him to be on our team. That was the year that we coached at the Senior Bowl. I think that was with Vance Joseph, actually. And I've wanted us to draft him ever since then.
But it was actually the Keenum year.
It was the Keenum year. I love Baker Mayfield. Sucks for him for sure, but I do think it was pretty much a foregone conclusion going into this offseason that Liam Cohen was probably going to be gone. I think the way that entire situation played out was just strange. Again, I don't think necessarily Liam Cohen did anything malicious. I don't know, but that's not what I was saying. I just think it was kind of a little bit of a flip-flop situation going on there. But
it would have been
sucks for Baker. Hopefully Jacksonville can get something turned around here, because they've just been an absolute mess for years.
The good news is Liam Cohen doesn't need to travel far.
No. No.
And I'm just I wish there would be a documentary about this, because this has Bravo, like, you know, Bravo reality show written all over it. You know, the whole Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen, Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation. It's got Bravo, you know, reality show written all over it. I think
the thing about just like Liam Cohen, arriving in Jacksonville for another interview. It's like, you mean he got out of his Uber?
Yeah. Right. Like he literally left the facility and then came back.
Yeah, it's funny. But anyway, Pete Carroll, one thing I just wanted to mention there, going back to that hire real quick.
Russell Wilson back to the AFC West?
No. Although I did see that they've apparently mended that bridge. But I don't know. I just think it's so funny. It's the most Raiders move ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he's an incredible head coach. He's also 73 and they have no quarterback and the entire team is kind of in a perpetual rebuilding phase. We'll see.
It just seems fitting for a former Patriot to be hiring a guy by the name of Spytek. I'm just going to say that.
I think it'd be so funny if John Spytek went to Jacksonville. I still have not seen that was officially.
It was official.
Completed. Was it?
I can't remember who said it. It might have been Ian Rappaport, but yeah, it was a thing. He signed his deal. It might have been Schefter as well, who shared it.
That would have been hilarious. Yeah. Oh no, Tom Pulitzer also did. Yeah. Okay, that would have been funny though. That would have been a very Raiders thing to happen. But
yeah, another wrinkle in this NFL Bravo reality show.
Yeah,
but
I really don't want the Raiders to be good again. I'm just going to be honest. Like, them continuing to be the Raiders just makes the AFC West easier. And look, I have nothing against Raiders fans.
Does that mean
we're rivals? I'm not going to want your team to succeed. I just want it to be a bit easier in this hellscape of a division. But I do think you guys have the right pieces in place.
Some pieces.
In terms of, like, again, Tom Brady being in that building, we'll see if that is what fruit that bears. I guess we'll see. Yep. But fascinating story.
Yep.
The AFC West just continues to be a constant arms race at all times.
Yep. And there maybe this is going to be a discussion for us about who has the best division of coaches. Is it the NFC North or is it the AFC West? That's going to be a fun conversation. I
think I saw someone call it the AARP West, and that's a good one.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
So moving forward to the championship weekend is the final topic. We don't need to discuss too much about this, but I think as we let it off, one of the best reels / memes I've ever seen lately, of course, for this playoff is that it's the scene from Endgame, and you have Cap beaten and bruised after his fight with Thanos, after lifting his hammer. His shield is broken, and then you hear Sam say "on your left," which was the nice little ode to Winter Soldier at the very beginning. And then you see everybody come out of the Doctor Strange circle, if you will, and where you see everybody come in. And then the meme is basically it's everybody and the Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you see Pat Mahomes as Thanos and Reed and etc., Taylor Swift, etc., everybody against the Chiefs. So everybody I know is going to be rooting, against the Chiefs. Hopefully the Bills can be able to do it. The other game is the Commanders and the Eagles, which we know that this is the third time that they're playing now. The second go around, of course, was the Kenny Pickett. Was Kenny Pickett game that's where Jaden Daniels let him down for the game-winning drive. Was a good moment for him. Might have sealed Rookie of the Year for him, Offensive Rookie of the Year for him. But who do you think's going to the Super Bowl? Let's just lead off with that.
Here's the one thing. We're talking NFC, or we're talking in general?
In general.
Okay. So we'll stick with the Commanders and Eagles here just to continue on this conversation about that game. Yes, I do think it's going to kind of come down personally, I think, to one thing, and that's the fact that the Commanders absolutely cannot stop anyone on the ground, and the Eagles have Saquon Barkley, and also Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles are going to win this one. I do think Jaden Daniels is going to be able to put on a good game, and it's going to be competitive. He did play well against them in their previous matchup as well in November, even though the Eagles ended up winning that one. But then the Commanders came back and were able to win the next following matchup in December, and that was the Kenny Pickett game. I do think that makes a little bit of an impact on like the outcome of the game. I mean, Saquon Barkley had 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, but when you have a quarterback in Kenny Pickett who's just, I'm sorry, not a threat at all to the Commanders,
he's got some.
You can play the game differently than you can in their first matchup in November, where Jalen Hurts is healthy and able to play. And Saquon Barkley also had almost 150 yards and 2 touchdowns again in that game. And it just continues to show that the Commanders cannot stop anyone on the ground. I think the Eagles are going to win this, but I think Jaden is going to make it a pretty good game. We'll see if he's able to continue his magic of a rookie season. The Eagles do have, again, a very, very good secondary headlined by 2 rookies that we talked about that are both in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be the Eagles, though.
I do think it's going to be the Eagles. And I really wasn't thinking too much on the rookie cornerback situation, for the Eagles.
It was mostly that they have an incredibly good secondary,
but
they are rookies.
But they are rookies, and it's going to be the toughest game that they will have played for, this season. So I'm very curious to see how it all shakes out. I think that also Jalen Hurts being injured a little bit is something that's going to be one that, you want to certainly monitor. I think obviously if you're
he was off the injury report.
He was, but we all know that he's still kind of banged up and everything. And, but I think that if you're the game plan, if you're the Washington Commanders, you want Hurts to beat you through the air. So they're going to just sell out, try and stop Saquon Barkley. Easier said than done. And dare Hurts to beat you through the air. He has, and by the way, make no bones about it, he has done that before. Hurts has beaten teams before through the air. Bronco fans certainly know that all too well. When the Broncos and Eagles played here in Mile High, and he lit him up. Like he lit him up. And the Broncos never adjusted defensively. So I think they might have even done that some in the first Super Bowl matchup, if it ever gets to it, between the Eagles and the Chiefs, where to call it for what it was, Hurts outplayed Mahomes in that Super Bowl, and the Chiefs just did enough to win that Super Bowl. So I think the injury now that it popped up though is going to be one to monitor, and that is the Cam Jurgens injury that just popped in today on Friday, which is
it's a back injury.
Right. Yeah, so him at center, he's clearly had a phenomenal year, Pro Bowl center, replacing Jason Kelce. So that's going to be an interesting one.
And that's not an easy task to ask a guy to do in replacing Jason Kelce.
Even if it's the tush push agenda, it's still it's still going to be an interesting one to follow there for that particular injury between the relationship of a quarterback and a center.
Moving over to the AFC.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this as unbiased as I possibly can. I don't know who wins this game. I do think that the Bills have an opportunity here to win.
They're the better team.
They're the better team. I do not think that the Chiefs have been nearly as good this year as they have been in recent memory. They weren't even that good last year, and they somehow were able to win. I think if they can keep it going with James Cook, I think that's going to be definitely helpful. You ironically have 2 teams playing in the AFC Championship game that both have a similar issue where they have basically no amazing stud weapons on the offensive side of the ball, except for really one, because the Bills have James Cook and the Chiefs have Travis Kelce, and that's kind of it. The Chiefs had Isaiah Pacheco. He's kind of not really been himself so far in his return back from injury.
From the tight ends and some play of wide receiver.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, alien quarterback with one weapon versus alien quarterback with one weapon. And I think it's going to come down to what do the Bills do against this Steve Spagnuolo defense that they should be obviously very familiar with at this point. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I don't think Patrick Mahomes has been good, to be honest with you.
For as much as they rested against the Broncos, it did not necessarily do Mahomes any favors in terms of like how he looked.
No, he just has not been. He's not been good. It's just flat out the truth. He's still Patrick Mahomes. They're still the Chiefs.
Frankly,
there's going to be some calls that people are going to yell at the TV about, and I'm not even saying one way or the other. If I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying that the Chiefs get helped. I'm just saying that just like the way that it goes every game, there's going to be calls that people scream about. It's going to be all over Twitter, and you're not going to know really what to make of it. It's going to be one of those games. It's going to be a fun one. Hopefully it doesn't go into overtime. Did you see that interview that both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were on? I don't remember exactly what it was for, but basically I think they asked Mahomes what Josh Allen was most scared of, and he said a coin flip.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen is in the room with him.
Yep. Yeah.
It's going to be a game. It's going to be a game.
Yes.
I don't know who's going to win. I honestly don't. I want it to be the Bills because I don't want it to be the Chiefs. Pretty much it. But I honestly do not know personally who will win this one.
The craziest and funniest thing, just in terms of a Bills fan, is this feels like the Bills' year. This call for what is it feels like the Bills' year for them to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Like it feels like the Bills' year. The crazy thing of why I say is funny is every time you feel like it is the Bills' year, something catastrophic happens to a game, whether it gets to the Super Bowl or they're at the Super Bowl, and something catastrophic happens where they don't win the Super Bowl, right? You don't need to look no further than the 4 straight Super Bowls where they could never win, right? You don't need to look.
That's one of the most unbelievable stats in the history of the sport.
That said, though, they have played before. The Bills and the Chiefs have played before this year. And I'm actually going to make a pretty bold statement here. I actually think that the Bills beat the Chiefs by more than a touchdown. Like, I actually think the score is going to be 30-20.
Isn't the line like, what's the line?
Yeah.
3?
It's
my internet hates me right now.
It's close, I thought. Like, let's take a look here. Looks like it's actually 1.5 for KC, and the
1.5 point favorite.
It's 48.5.
A 48.5 over under? That seems low for this game.
Yeah, so if it's 30-20, like I said, it would actually be the over on that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want it to be the Bills, but I don't know if I can accurately give a prediction.
Would you say it then? It's okay to go with your heart on this one, Brandon.
The Chiefs are going to win this game somehow, aren't they?
I said heart. Not.
I'm going to be honest.
No, it's if you're looking at if you were doing a picks system, it's one of those hard ones where do you roll with logic or do you roll with what you want to have happen? And logically, based on everything we've seen historically, the smart play is to pick the Chiefs. Just call it for what it was. The smart play is to pick the Chiefs.
I said I was going to be as unbiased as I could.
So, I just think that for me, my logic and / heart is the Bills are the better team. They should be beating the Kansas City Chiefs. So I just think that therefore
they should.
And I just think that for the other reason why I feel like this is a big deal is that Ravens game that they had in Buffalo and getting the monkey off their back in terms of that divisional playoff round, which they've, clearly had some problems with the last handful of years. They're finally past that. Now they can kind of play a little bit more free, right? They can play a little bit more free and loose with this Kansas City Chiefs game. So the fact they have that at least under their belt, I think is going to help them going into this game against the Chiefs. And I do think it very much is going to help them.
We'll see.
It's going to be won and
lost. I'm going to say, we'll see.
Won and lost in the trenches, though.
All right. Go Bills.
Yeah, go Bills. And hopefully we get a Bills and Eagles Super Bowl. I need a Bengals and Rams type Super Bowl, man. Like, I need one where I'm enjoying the time with the family and I'm just enjoying this Super Bowl. Like, where I'm enjoying the trash new commercials that is going to be happening on Super Bowl Sunday. The phenomenal trailers that is going to be, seen on Super Bowl Sunday. And the phenomenal food that I will be, having on Super Bowl Sunday. So I just need that. I don't need, where my stress level is, so high because I'm rooting against the Chiefs because I want that team to, win the Super Bowl. I don't need that. Like, I need a stress-free Super Bowl.
Here's the secret. You put money on the Chiefs, which should guarantee that they lose. And if they win, you win. That's the secret.
But I'm not a betting man. You know that.
I don't even know if I'm going to do it, but that's the secret. I've kind of renounced gambling on this season. I've only made a couple bets and they just didn't work out. So I'm probably not going to, but if I were inclined, that's what I would do.
Thank you to everybody that hopped in the YouTube streams, Sports Odds and Whiskey and Big Mike. Of course, and there was the Mic'd Up show that was that hopped in there, the Mic'd Up Denver Broncos game show. Thank you so much for hopping on. We will be doing another show regularly scheduled on Wednesday next week at 7:30 Mountain Time over here on the MHRT Network page. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over there on the MHRT Network page. We are pushing to see if we can get to 2,000 by the end of 2025. We're going to continue pushing that. And so again, thank you guys so much for your continued support and love for this channel. And hopefully we can continue to be providing some more content, for you. Obviously, we'll probably still be talking about some Broncos, here in, the doldrums before we get to, the Senior Bowl and, stuff like that, talking about some prospects, which, Brandon and I actually enjoyed talking about some prospects. So we're going to talk about that, but it was a great show. Got a chance to talk about some non-Denver Broncos stuff. I want to thank you guys again, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. And remember, even though we said what we said about Offensive Rookie of the Year, we know where our heart truly lies.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what this